way they wrote the Bible.
That's what I'm saying.
Hey, the way they wrote the Bible to me is like reading Spanish.
It's like reading Spanish.
Yeah, like, do I want to learn Spanish?
Do you kind of understand what it's saying?
You have to, but the way they wrote it is so it's so typical for that time frame.
Yes.
So in me having to try to decipher what they were trying to say in that time frame, doesn't make any sense to me. Like, why should I try to decipher what these people were trying to tell me? Whenever every single person in here that recites the scripture sees that scripture as a different meaning than the next person. You know, and so why should I try to figure out what my meaning is of this book? Whenever there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, thousands and thousands and thousands of books that I could read. You know, like, I hear sentences from this book all the time. But you did them. Here, you show this.
I hear sentences from this book all the time.
I do.
It's the most popular book.
Yeah.
It's like the Avengers.
But do you like
Harry Potter?
Do you just because a book is popular doesn't mean that you're gonna like it. That's the thing.
You're gonna like it, but it also doesn't mean that the information or the entity, the thought path that's trying to get to you,
Isn't getting to you.
That's
how ancient these souls are that we're talking about.
Yeah.
Talking about souls right now. Souls are like ancient energy, ancient thought entities that have like formed themselves. Like, I'm not going nowhere. Even when I leave the body, I'm still thoughts. Like, I'm not. This how hard my energy is here. That's why I mentioned Dragon Ball Z earlier, because Dragon Ball Z talks about how the Saiyan is born, right? But they're just the Saiyan. There's other power levels they can go to if they push their life to the limits. But if they don't push their life to the limits, they just remain a Saiyan. They just stay a Saiyan. But there's legend. The legend talks about a Super Saiyan. Christ talks about a Super Saiyan. It's everywhere.
But you know, nobody. You know the thing is this.
But nobody believes.
But hang on.
What?
Nobody in Norway says the word Christ. You come to the United States, and then it's like, Christ is such a powerful word.
What do they say?
Like, Christ. And I'm thinking, oh gosh, it's like the fanaticism that has happened.
Well, that's the concept of magic spells too.
But like, you go to Norway, people don't care. Like, it's a Christian founded country, but they are so chill. They're so chill about the religion.
Type shit.
Yeah, like, but you come to the United States and it's like magnified to the 10th to the 20th degree. So I'm like, chill out. Like, it's like overacting. You know what overacting looks like?
Oh, well, yeah.
That's what the Christian, when Christians talk about their faith, that's what it's like. That's what it comes across like to me. Like,
that's how much certainty they're putting behind.
Yeah, but it's compulsive. It's too much. It's like, chill. Relax with the fucking Christ, God, Scripture, this, Scripture, God. And going back and forth all the time, like.
That's why I don't argue, because it's about knowing.
These TikTok.
The thing is, if I can have a civil conversation, if we're really sitting here, the thing is when people like I'll be approached by Jehovah's Witnesses all the time. I'm approached by Arabic people or Muslims who are trying to also like help me find a better way, quote unquote. But here's the thing, is when you come at the conversation, I come at the conversation from the angle of I'm teaching them something. It's immediate from the moment they start talking.
Yeah, but you
because
know this though.
And the thing is, look,
everybody
wait,
teaching somebody something.
Listen. That's the thing though. That is a teacher coming to you, testing your knowledge. If you can't handle their conversation, then what have you learned about the oneness, about the source, about the talking about whatever that divine thing is that we're trying to describe when we are human beings, and trying to describe just what it is that we become and where we go back to. If you can't have that conversation with someone, then you're not able to pass the test, I feel like.
But
And-
you know what I've realized though? The more I listen to these debates on TikTok, everybody hits a wall in the conversation. Like I don't throw up walls at people. Like whenever he's talking, I'm not just gonna throw up a wall when he's talking. Like, and so what's interesting is that whenever you get into these debates, or whenever you listen to the debates on TikTok, they throw up these walls every sentence. Like you can get out 3 words and then boom, there's a wall. You get out 3 more words and then boom, there's a wall. Do you know what the definition of Christ really is? Do you know what the definition of well, I'm just saying of this scripture? Do you know the actual definition? Because this word is Latin and this word or this word
you word the
but,
conversation back. If you come to do battle, then you come to do battle. Don't get on there and don't be ready to do battle, because that's what it is. That's exactly what it is. Words are what? Swords.
But that's
W-R-D-S.
that's why I think that's why
S-W-R-D.
But that's why I think the Bible is like a perfect example of making things too complicated.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I was saying,
it's too complicated.
I have crazy conversations with Jehovah's Witnesses all the time, and I was talking to him at a coffee shop one day, and I was like, I feel like as we as human beings, we make our lives too complicated, and that's what makes us turn away from the promise. We try to figure, rather than taking the simplest answers sometimes for what it is our conscious awareness is, and using that and utilizing that. A lot of people are super fucking dramatic. Like I know it and when I say dramatic, I mean you go beyond what the day should transmute. Like there's energy that comes to you that you need to transmute, whether it's negative or positive. And sometimes it's a lot negative, and you're supposed to transmute it for a certain amount of time and then let it go. Any time beyond that, it's dramatic. And a lot of people are dramatic AF. And
yeah, I mean,
they're students more than they are teachers. If you're not dramatic as fuck, you're more of a teacher, and you got to be ready to do battle. Like when I teach kids,
I think somebody can consider themselves a teacher sometimes.
Raising kids is doing battle. Raising kids is really doing battle, because you're teaching them how to program their language so that they can navigate the social structure.
Yeah.
And it's a tough thing to do. It's a weird thing to navigate as a growing adult yourself. And I'm saying that in your respect and my respect. As far as
I taught a dance class today.
Oh yeah, and you raise a kid.
And these
you got
kids,
a little monkey.
These kids were so, they would stay connected and then they disconnected. Stay connected, disconnected.
On live, off live.
Yeah.
On live, in the chat, out the chat. In the chat, out the chat.
It was like,
but they in the chat though.
Yeah, it was like, it was like my sister, my daughter times 15, 20. You know, I'm just thinking, oh my God. My daughter times 15? Like, that's what it felt like.
That's hilarious.
You know, and I'm just thinking, how do I control my daughter times 15? And so I had to get really loud, very, like...
Engaging is a good word to think, because what you're saying is the right words, but also really think about it like being engaging. Yeah, because that's what they're looking for, and you really got to keep up with it. Blitz is cold.
He is.
Blitz is cold with it, bro. I'll be studying him. I'll be like, bro, all right. And if you don't keep up with it, like I'll be trying to tell Bugsy about this when we're doing it with each other, and we're like teaching kids together. I'm like, if you don't keep their asses engaged, like on the next thing, and you gotta be so quick because they burst out in little conversations. Blitz told me that shit one day when we was talking, and I always noticed it, but I never like I didn't nip it in the bud right when it happened. Yeah. But the faster you nip it in the bud, by keeping the whole class involved. The more you keep their little attention. Yeah. But it's gotta be quick, and you gotta be like, and it's nothing too much, because that's what, as an adult, as you evolve, you should be the master of playing. Yeah. You should know what playing looks like. Yeah. You should know the whole story of playing, the story arc of playing by now. And that's what we get paid for. Yeah. That's what we get paid for.
It was not easy.
No, it is not easy. So just know that when your kids come, alright, you're getting your money's worth.
You know, these lives are so weird to me on my end. Like I feel like I've set some kind of setting.
on YouTube right now.
Huh?
I'm using YouTube.
Oh, well, I feel like I've set a setting. See on your YouTube.
Is people saying anything? Like I said, bro, the phenomenon is multi-thing. What do you say?
A black voice up talking. Oh, goodness gracious. Dude. Oh, man. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Wow, that's crazy, man. I'm stunned. Like, I don't know how I would handle people being able to comment. I don't know if I'd be able to handle that. You know, because, you know, the stream of flow of people giving you their perspective. Huh?
So basically, like if you think about the mind as the network that
No, you can't talk, you can't explain things when you're in there peeing.
Well, no, what I'm saying is if you think about the mind as a network, as a collection of information that your brain can tap into, then, and I've actually like experienced this, especially like when I was driving around for a little, when there's more brains accessing the network, wouldn't that make the bandwidth a little weaker, so to speak? Not necessarily less, like, as in, like, it's not powerful, but it's, like, amazingly powerful. Let's just use the term God. God, like, powerful. But when you're awake with so many other brains accessing that same network, accessing that same Wi-Fi,
82%.
then it's lowering. Yeah, we're the one thing I started to understand about live is I was like, if I want to do this live thing and I want to go somewhere with it, I gotta keep my phone charged. That's why I was like, damn, I'm mad I didn't bring my equipment with me because I usually have a bunch.
I still can't. I can't talk to anybody.
I mean, we talking to people now. They just not talking back.
No, I just don't think that's what it is, man.
That's what it is, bro. I'm trying to tell you. These people are trash out here in the streets.
Let me see here.
They don't know how to respond.
I really would like to have a setup where.
Oh, damn, my battery charged fast as hell.
Graphic.
A black bringing his voice up, talking to a white man. Oh, Lord. Oh, this is YouTube.
Yeah.
Bonjour. Are you guys dating? What the fuck? Cool hair? He's going to rob you. What the fuck?
I
What
know.
country? Hi there. Message retracted. Whatever Christy said was raunchy. She said some raunchy. Hey, we got 3 likes on this bitch, though.
The kind of things people say. It's kind of crazy.
We got 3 likes in this bitch, though. You know what I'm saying? 3 likes in this bitch.
It's weird, man, because
I'm just saying.
Hey, no, but what I was saying when I was in the bathroom.
I know what you said a lot
You
of
heard-
things, and I heard you peeing at the same
At
time.
the same time.
I couldn't concentrate on what you were saying because you were peeing, and I was trying to say
Not
stuff.
hear that and say other things. Other things that were being said. See, this is why
You're bending those legs, the legs. You don't bend them like
I
that.
keep doing that, but let's keep it like that because that's my style. So as I was saying about the bandwidth, so let's think about it right now. So it's what time in the morning? It's about 2:30 in the morning, right? So therefore, there are a lot of people asleep. So with that being said, a lot of people being asleep, that means that there are not that many brains that are consciously actually accessing the network of the mind's information, the collective information of the mind, or the collective information of the quantum field. The quantum field is what? What is the quantum field? Quantum means I don't fucking know. It means atoms. It means fucking string theory. Get your shit together. Study some science. Quantum, okay? That's what the fuck it means. So quantum fields are things that the brain, your brain can access. And your brain
accessing that quantum field is not happening to such a degree. Hey, why you didn't stay in my shot? Why did you leave my shot? Like my people want to see you too, man. This is a thing. It's not just me and my shot, you and your shot. Like this is live within a live. Oh well, I guess your people just see you. Then let them just see you. So it's like you're the CPU and I'm until you start talking, and then I'm gonna just do what you did. But I was almost there. What I was saying was basically is how neither high nor drunk, okay, madam? How about you just listen to the information so maybe you can learn and understand how to use your brain rather than let your brain use you. A lot of you aren't even being used by your brain. A lot of you out here being used by your fucking genitalia. You know, your genitalia is running the fucking show. All right. But if you want to know about how to use your brain, you got to understand that it's a piece of hardware that is able to access the mind. The mind is what, when I say mind, I'm defining mind as a collection of information and thought streams that is constantly flowing around in the quantum field. Like we said earlier, what does quantum mean? Atoms, string theory, protons, electrons, things that make up matter. That is the quantum field. So with that being said, when your brain is not accessing the quantum field, you're not drawing so much energy on the quantum field. So therefore, the quantum field has a recess of energy that it can pull from to do its own creations. And this is why you have a brain. So your brain will pull in, whether you charge it negatively or positively, it'll pull in experiences that are either negative or positive. How do you know which way it's working? Look at the experiences that you're having. Are you having positive experiences? Or are you having more negative experiences? Just think about it generally, in a general sense. If you think about it in a general sense, and then think about it in an extreme sense, think about it in an extreme sense when you're in a positive state. When you're in a negative state of mind, like you're depressed or you're sad, think about it in a general state. And that'll help you get over something like depression or something. But once again, your brain can be charged. It's on you what you charge it with. Positive or negative thoughts. Positive or negative energy. How can you tell? How can I tell? How can I tell what I'm creating then? How can I tell what God is giving me? You know, because I know a lot of you don't believe you create. You create. You're a creator. Okay? So, how do I know what I'm creating? Look at your life. Are you getting negative experiences? Are you getting more positive ones? If you're getting more positive, quote unquote, more experiences that are aligned with what you want to experience, then you're doing it right. Listen, first of all, you're doing it right regardless. Regardless of whether you're getting negative shit or positive shit, you're doing it right. The only way it's the direction. Are you going with the flow or going against the flow? It's easier to go with the flow. It's never easier to go against the flow. It's always easier to go with the flow. And a lot of people don't have morals too. Morals fuck up your charge. If you haven't consciously evolved enough to start to have morals and principles, then therefore your charge is going to be up in the wind. You're going to pull in whatever happens around you. Your environment is going to be what your charge is. Simple as that. Simple as that. That's what your environment is going to be. Tell them. Because if you don't consciously charge your vibe, then you're letting your environment charge your vibe. And it's up to you. If you don't consciously charge your vibe, then you're letting other people charge your vibe for you. And that's much harder than people know. That's why I compared it to Dragon Ball Z earlier. Because we're all fucking Saiyans with the potential of being greater, but not every Saiyan wanted to be greater. Also, the other thing, like, it's hard to kind of like say that because, okay, so look, here's the thing. Every Saiyan was born with the, how do you say, every Saiyan was born with the, how do you say, with the drive to battle. They were born with the drive to battle. So, if we use that analogy on the human condition, every human was born with the drive to create something. This is why we reproduce. It's the most basic understanding. It's the most basic understanding. Most basic understanding of life is that you're here to reproduce. That's your one. If you have, maybe you have two. I would say you have two purposes in life. Two absolute purposes that cannot be taken away. To be born, that's your first purpose, to be born, and your second purpose is to create. That's two purposes that you have as a human being. Two. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2 purposes. Right off the bat, you got those two purposes. Right off the bat. Right off the bat, they are fulfilled right off the bat. You're born. It was easy. All you had to do is wait 9 months. You came out your mom womb, boom, born. I'm a son, I'm a daughter, I'm a mother, I'm a wife, I'm a husband, I'm a brother. You know, I'm these things to other people. So that purpose is fulfilled. After that, you have another purpose, which is to create. You are fulfilling that purpose from the moment you start to breathe. You create another breath by breathing in and breathing out. Breathing in and breathing out. Your purpose is done. After that, it's up to you to grab greater purpose. Learn how to walk, learn how to crawl, learn how to keep your balance, learn how to talk, learn how to navigate the social structure. Learn how to navigate the social structure. Learn how to be a part of society. How to be a cog in the system. Once you this is where a lot of people stay. After a lot of people learn how to be a cog in the system, how to be a gear in the watch, how to be a chain in the fence, how to be a link in the chain, they stay there. They don't go any further. And that's what separates a Saiyan from a Super Saiyan or a human from a superhuman. That's right. Yeah. There. I said it. Fine. I said it. He's a superhuman. Yep. Because he can do that. That makes him a superhuman. Why? Because he's taken what human basics to what comes to a human naturally, which is movement, which is balance, which is coordination, hand-eye coordination, physical coordination, physical strength. He's taken that to another level. And that's extraordinary. He's taken the ordinary and adding extra onto it. So that makes him a superhuman. And a lot of people remain human. Your purpose as a human is not to remain human. You're supposed to become supernatural. And it's not as hard as you think. Becoming supernatural is not as hard as you think, guys. It's not as hard as you think. As a matter of fact, you're probably doing it already. Because it is that, how do you say, it is that much of a symptom or is that much of a way things go. It's the way things go. It's the way things go. It's the way things go. Eventually, you're going to become supernatural. You start out natural, you start out basic, you start out with the basic package. The basic package is what? learning how to walk, learning how to talk. You
Truthfully,
know?
though, I see it as though we're already supernatural because, you know, it's like saying the computer doesn't have a flow of energy going through it. That flow of energy is, I guess, what I consider supernatural. I mean, if you also think about our biology, down to the microparticles,
Just said it.
Down
You
to-
just said it.
down
You
to the
just said
atoms.
it. The flow of energy itself is supernatural.
yes,
So that's how easy it is for you to be supernatural.
Mm.
You just have to realize you're accessing it. Because in turn of realizing you're accessing it, you're going to want to apply it. Tell them, how did you begin to want to learn to dance? How did you begin to want to learn art itself? Just being creative itself. You had an awareness of what? What did you have an awareness over? What were you aware of?
when I started dancing.
When you started creating art, period. When you started wanting to take, because art is taking from the imagination or the unseen and bringing it to the scene. That's what imagination is, or that's what art is.
But whenever you say unseen, what I see as being referenced is like what's happening on the back end is flow of consciousness. It's like a Wi-Fi signal that's coming to you. You know your higher self. You know what I'm talking about when I say higher self, right? So that higher self is where the flow of information is coming from the consciousness to your higher self, and the higher self starts sending you messages, and so you decipher whether or not that higher self should be listened to at this moment. And so, like whenever I ask my daughter if she hears that voice in her head and she says yes, I think it's funny because she has a higher self that she's acknowledged, and so that higher self, I'll say, okay, is it your higher self that's making this problem right now, or is it you not listening to your higher self? And then she'll say, well, I'm not listening to that, to my voice. And so what's funny to me then is like, I know whether or not the inner voice that she has is for good or for the bad. Like, which one is it that she hears? And so when she hears the one that's, like, I think her inner voice agrees with mom and dad. And
well, it's going to.
Yeah.
Because y'all are inherently
Because-
good. That's what your function
Yes,
is
exactly.
as the parental unit.
But it's interesting to hear her say it. And so when she says it, when she says that the inner voice sounds to me like it's the responsible one. And I mean, she said,
sometimes responsible ain't fun though.
she's,
And that's what kids come to remind us too, like as well. We gotta kind of like take that like into the seasoning as we're baking, you know, like that is what kids come to remind us. Sometimes it's very interesting that you bring this up because that's a very magnificent distinction of the thought processing of a child, and also a magnificent display of your parenting and your application of parenting skills in the science experiment that is parenting. Like, you know, not a lot of people will go to that level that you went to kind of like digest that information out of her so that we as a collective can now have that information in our database.
it's crazy when you
Think
start
about it.
when you start asking these little kids these questions about like how you know that a human being functions, and then you just basically ask a basic question that a little child can understand.
You know,
like,
that's
like, do you have a voice in your head that tells you to do something different? Like, do you hear a voice talking to you in
and
your
then
head?
to like digest that, not attack it. It's,
Yeah.
It's such a marvelous depiction of
she
parenting.
she looked at me and she started laughing like Daddy just called out my inner voice.
yeah, because you're addressing the magic. You see, earlier we talked about this, y'all. That's the mana. kids, we remember the mana, and then I say we because I'm still a kid at heart. You know, I don't always like to admit it, and a lot of people I hang out with, like this guy right here, he's still a kid at heart. He might not want to admit it. You know, he goes along with the narrative sometimes.
Kid.
You know, but yeah, exactly. This guy's a big fucking kid, bro. Especially after today's gig, dude. Seeing you out there, I was like, this guy got the energy. You'd be like, hey, look, we can play like this. And that's the thing about being an adult, that I was watching a cartoon that actually put me on game with this. The cartoon said, damn, it fucking got away from me. But I'll remember. When I remember it, I'll say it to y'all, because I kind of forgot what we were talking about, too. What were we talking about?
My bad. I might have distracted you.
What are we talking
my
about?
own mind, I get distracted.
I told you, man, you Doctor Strange, bro, so you sending out quantum pulses into the field. When you fucking glitch, we all glitch.
Yeah?
Like,
Maybe.
yeah, that's how powerful, bro. Come on now.
I
Get
love,
your shit together.
like, sometimes...
I'm a powerful magician. How did he glitch me? I should be able to remember what I'm thinking about, bro. Fuck that. Like, I'm too aware.
What's interesting is, like, whenever I get into some of these live debates, whenever I just depict my perspective on, like, where we come from, they just sit there and they're like...
We're back to this. We're back to this.
Yeah,
I'm telling you, bro, it's because monkey see, monkey do. If it was more, it depends on the topic. The monkey see, monkey do phenomenon. It depends on the topic too.
Well, yeah, they have a hard time communicating with a perspective that takes them, that throws them for a loop.
Well, I guess they can't see me, or I don't know. Okay.
I guess
No, that's good. That's good.
I don't do the sideways like you.
Yeah,
do.
I'm not gonna get there. Oh yeah, that's why you can't fit you in
my
there. Yeah.
angles.
You. Hey, you getting the likes though? They showing you love.
Somebody did it.
They stay pressing that button.
Somebody.
I've been watching. They stay
Maybe
pressing
it's the
that button.
transition of like.
Damn, I felt like I had
trans-
a point
trans-
that was
transition
really
of
good that I was gonna
angle.
make, because you had talked about how you had investigated your daughter's mind space about the inner voice.
Yeah, I really want to investigate
and
more.
I thought that was. I was like, that's pretty fucking dope how you do that. And then...
You know what else I got out of my daughter?
What?
Was the description of what it was like in the belly.
Oh, that's a deep... Hey, she learned how to talk fast then. Because that's a tough memory to hang on to.
Yeah.
That's a really tough memory. The thing is,
but
as soon
I
as
asked
your brain
her,
develops, it's collecting archives of information. Like, just like you record stories on your phone, your body's reacting to emotional impulses within your mother's belly that are creating like stories like you create on your phone. But not everything gets recorded. And just like stories on your phone, eventually those archives are going to fill up, and it's not that you don't remember, but if you're not trained to hold on to the memories, they fade.
But you know what's crazy is that whenever you look back on your phone now, which we didn't have the option to do whenever we were, I don't know, 10, 20 years ago. But when you look back at your phone, you remember what you would have forgotten if you hadn't had the phone as memory storage. And so it's almost like it's crazy because how your mind can say, oh yeah, I remember that time, but it might not have been something that you'd have been able to describe to somebody else. Like let's say you remembered it and you wanted to describe it to me, it wouldn't have triggered to me in the same way as it would if I just watched that video again.
One needs what I was just talking about, what you bounced off of, which is exercising your will over bringing memories up, period. Being able to, because the memories are there, it's one's ability to use their willpower, focus, concentration,
You have
attention
to keep the memories alive.
to bring it up, conjure it up. To conjure it up, like we talked about earlier,
So
the kid is close to the magic still, so her being able to talk to it at that age and have that.
This was
awareness,
she was like she was probably about she was probably about 4.
Like, it's funny that you bring up of what you said about the phone being like a way that you can kind of remember things that you may have quote unquote forgotten. I always say that it's just something you don't remember. You didn't forget it. You just don't remember it. You can't bring it back to member.
No, exactly.
You didn't forget it. It's still there. You just can't remember.
Think about the next step in cell phones. Like let's say that the next step in cell phones is something that has a constant camera recording, you know? And That being the case, let's say that you end up recording your whole life, okay, on the phone, but you know,
It would take your whole life to watch that. First of all,
well,
You
no,
could never
you
actually
can, but
review it.
it's almost
you
the
can
same.
watch highlights.
Yeah, it's like going through your album. And so what happens on, let's say what happens in the phone, let's say that this life reel that you have ends up categorizing every experience that you have. And then so if you want to go back to a specific time, all you have to do is type in that experience, and then the phone says, "Oh, yeah, this is what you experienced. This is what happened exactly." And so, but that's not to say that it should be something that the police could get a hold of necessarily. Like that's the only thing is like the police could get a hold of your phone right now and look through your videos. So that, but they're not doing it, and so I just think that it's a crazy concept to where, like, let's say that not only does your phone have that ability, but your phone also has the ability to become a VR experience in the future. And so let's say you put on some glasses to experience the VR aspect, and then you go into the actual experience itself feeling like you're there, as opposed to watching it on the screen. Like, you go into this experience as though you're there. And let's say you have gloves you can put on and you can even feel the experience itself. Like, so, that's like taking VR and incorporating it into a phone, and then having the ability to record your real life experience in a way that will be re-experienced in the future as the same thing. And that's going to be mind-boggling because
That's basically what we're experiencing now.
yeah, but it's time traveling. You know what I'm saying? It's time traveling, and so let's say that at some point,
So you're saying like, so can I jump ahead of you real quick
Yeah.
to make an assumption? So what I'm assuming you're saying before you bring it to a conclusion is that you're saying that we are in the future at some point able to create a virtual reality operating system that simulates life to the degree that we're experiencing life right now,
yeah.
and that a lot of the timelines we're experiencing right now could possibly be people who are actually back in time already right now with a VR on right now.
Potentially, yeah, like
Potentially.
yeah. So.
Boom! No.
Well,
Which
but
is
but
why God is so
let me
good.
take the next step.
That's
Let me
why
take
you
the
need
next
God
step.
in your life.
But let me take the next step.
It helps a little bit, at least. Because
Dude,
you gotta know with certainty what's going on. That's the main navigation of this game that we're in. If this is a game.
But like, okay, so what I can see as being an experience that can happen is that a video game company can get a hold of this idea, and what happens when it becomes a video game?
Would it even be called a video game company?
Well,
okay, yeah.
Well, it's just to depict the experience itself. Like, so the video game company sets up the system so that you can experience it again, in a scenario where it seems like you're actually there, and so when you go back
at the end of your life type shit.
Whenever, if you want to go back in time, and whenever time you want to go back into the past, you can go back into the past, and then experience it again.
That's a movie plot.
And so
that's a movie plot.
What I'm also think would be a great idea would be
go see that in the theaters. I'd be like, damn, he was actually.
Yeah.
He was actually in a machine the whole time. Wow.
But here's the next step in
it
that.
Makes sense though.
Whenever you connect the video game industry to this idea, then you can take a different path. Like, it gives the option.
Well, it brings it full circle. I feel like too.
Yeah, it brings it full circle.
Without the video game company, you don't get the mass production. You don't get the same reach, or so to speak, with the technology.
But imagine if if the video game had the ability to calculate a different path that you could have taken.
Well, what you're talking about is timelines.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and when you talk about timelines, you open the world up to the multiverse.
Yes.
When you open the world up to the that's why I call you as Doctor Strange. I swear you could do a great Doctor Strange cosplay. But when you open your world up to the multiverse and you begin to understand that the world is multiverses, that's where understanding that the brain is that quantum computer that can switch between the multiverses. If you don't get that, then you don't understand how to use your words, and you're constantly navigating to realities that are happening to the good of you, maybe, because that's what life is. Life is constantly pushing up and elevating, evolving. So that's why God is good. King Gaud, the greatest king in history, went down as God, literally Zeus, literally. That's why those references exist about life, because life is constantly trying to push itself, the life force within you, the chi, the energy that moves in your body, the way your blood moves without you sitting there going, okay, my blood gotta go from my heart, let me move my heart muscle, artery vascular 3, let me move that vascular, and then stop it, and then open it, and that way I gotta breathe. Oh, I gotta breathe again.
Oh my
Can't
gosh.
talk to you. I gotta breathe.
I have to breathe and take a
blink.
shit.
Oh no. Wait,
No, I have to breathe and eat. I have to breathe and eat.
Oh,
I have to make sure that
I gotta move my toe.
I have to make
scratch my nose.
Yeah, I have to make
So
sure
to
that
scratch my nose. I gotta move my muscle this way to activate this muscle, and then activate that muscle. Like, you don't think like that. All of that stuff happens, and that's your life force. A lot of, like we talked about earlier.
Well,
the
body,
package.
the body is multiple organisms within one.
Oh,
like
yeah.
it's got sections of that control it. One section controls itself, and then another section gets the transfer of what that other section did, and then it continues to transfer, but they have a mind of your organs have a mind of their own.
A mind
Yeah.
of their own.
It's crazy.
A collective of flowing information in the quantum field of their own that they are concerned with. And then you, when I talk about you, I'm talking about the you that governs all of those cells, all of those processes. So much so that you don't even pay attention to them. Do you make yourself digest food? No, you don't. Your body just does it for you, so to speak. So that's why you are a god. They don't want you to think you're God. They've submitted this title to you of God, of king, of queen, all these titles because they want you to think you're separate from the power that is, the only power that is, which is attention.
Well, I mean, whether or not you're God is the depiction of what you identify that label as. And so, what does the label mean to you in describing that a human being is God? Because that's whenever you get into why we have...
That's when you start hurting people's feelings.
Well, you start getting into different perspectives.
Yeah, hurting people's feelings. I don't mind getting my feelings hurt. Tell me I'm not a God. I'm not going to try to prove you wrong. Because your belief system... Your lack of doubt has nothing to do with what I know. And that's why one of the dopest things I've heard recently is belief is just an act of doubting. If you want true faith, you have to know things. As simple as that. You gotta know things.
I had that same conversation yesterday, and I don't believe that's exactly the correct perspective on it, because...
Do you believe you can breathe?
See, whenever you say... But hey, whenever I ask you what you believe, what's going to come out of your mouth?
Whenever I
ask you, what do you believe about, like, what are your beliefs in
I'm not gonna tell you anything that I believe, because I just had the epiphany
of
what I know.
No, but
of what I know.
Exactly.
Because
I've
had the epiphany of what I know, I'm gonna tell you what I know now.
But hang on. All the term belief means is saying, go to your storage folder. Okay? The folder
Exactly.
But listen, the folder is called belief. Okay, inside that folder you have your truths categorized, and so what I'm saying is that whenever I say belief, it's what you have established as your fact folder. And so I think that, and I got in this debate with somebody on TikTok yesterday who I actually
wait.
look up to.
Are you saying belief belief is synonymous with fact? Is what I'm thinking? Is what I'm conveying to you?
Yeah, if
Because
you
no, belief is not fact. Belief is something that you think could be a fact. You're still processing information on it being a fact.
yeah,
But
but
facts are things that you know.
no, but hang on. Okay. You can only know it as how in the way that you know it. Okay, so whenever you say fact, you're emphasizing how you're emphasizing your perspective and forcing it onto somebody else by calling it a fact. And so that's where I disagree with facts, because somebody's going to see a different perspective slightly in millimeters and centimeters, inches. They're going to see something differently than you do. And so whenever you say fact, you're forcing your perspective onto the other person as though your perspective is the only one that is correct. And so belief is perfect for the perspective of explaining how you think about something, because you can think you have a fact, and so somebody who understands that fact more in depth than you do starts explaining to you the details that you're leaving out. And so all I'm saying is that facts, put them in quotation marks, because nobody's going to force their facts on me. Okay, you can try to, and you can say, well, because these people, and it got peer reviewed, and then we have this book, and then okay, but I can go into so many directions with this conversation, and what you're talking about specifically here, specifically there, because every sentence you say, I can dissect in a way that's going to be like a whole conversation on its own, And so whenever somebody says fact, put that shit in quotation marks, because,
That's why knowing is such a powerful tool. Belief is one tool, but knowing is the next level of that tool. When you know something, it's not whether it's the truth or whether it's the fact. When you know something is certainly momentarily about to happen. For instance, and the best thing I can use is breathing. You know you're about to take another breath. You know you're about to take another breath. You know your heart about to keep beating. These are things
you don't know that. You don't know.
The only way the only way it becomes a belief. Here's where I make my distinction.
You don't know.
The only way it becomes a belief, the only way you don't know, is in terms of threat. And even then, your amount of knowing is what determines the outcome of the threat.
It's not a threat. Because
I'm saying that's the only way your knowing is subject to a belief, is in terms of a threat.
All you're doing,
because knowing is complete alignment with an idea.
There's ways of saying that. Okay, I see this big rock falling down from the mountain, and if I don't move, it's going to hit me. That's a possibility, but you'll never know it's going to hit you until it actually does. And so what I'm saying is the fact that,
which is why it's such a crazy thing to harness as a human being. The only way for us to effectively use our brain, the quantum processor that it is by knowing things. Knowing, like you said, you don't actually know until it is what it is. Okay, so if I can take my mental processor, this thing that can imagine outcomes before, and place it in a place where I want this outcome to happen, and keep my mind there, keep my knowing there. Other things can't do that. Other beings can't do that.
Yeah, or
can't do that consciously like we can.
We have to also realize, though, that the outcomes aren't always going to be 100% the same.
This is where knowing comes in.
No.
Because knowing says it is what it is already. There is no going back. Knowing says I already traveled to the time where it happened, where it came out like that, and it's in time, and it is not going back. That's why knowing is something to harness.
Knowing is never going to be 100% concrete. Never. Because of the fact that humans are not perfect. You're not perfect. Your thoughts aren't perfect. the experiences that we have aren't perfect,
Well,
and our deciphering of that experience isn't perfect. The language we have isn't perfect, and so there's so many
The
imperfections.
word perfect isn't perfect because the word
Yeah,
perfect
but-
is even
but
misunderstood.
the word truth-
The word perfect is a verb. It's something that's constantly happening.
Yeah, but we
Perfect
have
is not something that's finite. It's something
exactly.
that's
That's
constantly
exactly what I'm saying. So when you think you know something, you're thinking that you can. You're
the
thinking,
more knowledge you have, though, the greater you can intensify the knowing. That's what I'm saying.
but
The
it's-
belief. What I'm
it's
saying is
not
that
a
the belief of something is
you'll never.
is
but
you
see-
holding on to that.
No, but
is
no,
one
no, no.
holding on to that.
But knowing can always be educated upon to where you know more. So you never fully know.
Not
Whenever you
diluting
say,
the power of the prior knowing still.
yeah, but you never fully know.
So you're constantly
You're-
going
you're-
from belief to knowing, from belief to knowing, from
No,
belief to knowing, a fluctuating image.
you never actually fully know. Never.
Which is why I said you're constantly fluctuating between belief and knowing, because a knowing is something. Okay, I know this. Okay,
You
I
could
know
say-
that if I cut
If
this
you go
fire
into
on,
semantics, if you want to
if-
go into semantics on something that you know, then somebody can analyze it to the degree of potentially calling out a hole in what you think you know.
which is where the infinity principle comes into hand, because things are constantly moving, transforming energy. So if belief is the progression of knowing, then that must mean that knowing flips around to become belief again. If knowing cannot expand to a finite process, which we already
Have you heard the- have you heard the quote- have you heard the quote-
Perfection is not an existence. Perfection is a ongoing process.
Have you heard the phrase that the wisest person realized this is the fact that we know nothing? Have you heard that?
Yeah,
Like the
yeah.
wisest people could come to the conclusion
That
that they know nothing.
Yeah.
And so that's
nothing. Though.
Yeah.
Know nothing.
No,
Because
it's not a
knowing
metaphor.
nothing-
It's not a metaphor,
Knowing
though.
nothing means that knowing nothing helps you know everything, or brings you to the
No, it
understanding
doesn't.
that you know everything.
No, like you
Because in knowing nothing,
knowing is
you know
concrete
something.
though. Knowing is concrete. We're not concrete human beings. We're not solidified. No information.
What if that is the solidification of it? Is not being solidified? What if that is the solidification of it? That is the certainty.
I think that
is not being in a certainty. Being able to not be in a certainty
there
and bring it to certainty.
hey, there's a blurred line between the transition between belief and knowing. Okay, there's a blurred line. There's no solid line between you where you feel like you've come to the knowing.
You should. I feel like you
It-
should be.
because
I feel like at some points
you
in
can
your life,
say it.
you should
It's-
constantly.
you can
should
say
come
it.
to a point of mastery. You should come to a point of I am the master
No.
of that. Rather than always being like somebody's got to teach me. Somebody's got to
No,
teach
but
me
you
how
got
to
to
do
teach
this.
yourself.
Somebody's got to
You
teach.
always- you
Eventually-
can always teach
eventually it
yourself.
eventually,
No,
there should be
you-
patterns.
you
There
can
should be
never come to a
pockets of
conclusion.
certainty. There should be pockets of conclusion. I'm not saying that there are only pockets of conclusion. I'm saying that there are pockets of conclusion, then pocket of confusion.
Yeah.
But it should be a new level of confusion. I should not be confused on the same level that I was confused when I came to this conclusion. Or I should not be at the same level of belief that I was when I
truthfully-
came to this knowing. I should now know
No.
that this is the reality
No.
versus what I
People,
believed
what I
before.
hear is people misusing the word "no," and they're misusing the word. What was the other word that you said that was a solidified understanding? You know,
Conclusion.
conclusion. If you like, there's the conclusion and the knowing can always be micro-analyzed to the degree that you didn't see it, and so.
And that's when it becomes a belief. But that doesn't mean that it doesn't immediately come knowing again.
No, it doesn't come. It doesn't switch. It shouldn't switch to knowing
It
because
should.
whenever you switch to knowing and then you realize that you really didn't know to begin with because there's more to know, then you say you know again,
Then
and
you're
then
the
you say you
wisest
know again.
man ever.
So
eventually you got a master. Even master
no.
is the master.
What
of it.
I'm saying is that you believe keeps the door open. Because the door always needs to stay open. Whenever you say you
And that's the
know,
wisest
when you
thing
say
to
you
do,
know,
yeah.
you've closed the door as though you've solidified it.
And you have to
The door
eventually
is
close the door.
always the door is always open. It might be slightly open, or really widely open, but it's never going to be closed because you can always gain more information about something. You can always get better at dancing. You can always get better at speech. You can always get better at art. You can always get better. There's always going to be somebody better than you, right? And so that means that you've never come to a conclusion because there's always going to be semantics that can be dissected within whatever the conclusion is that you think you've concluded that you didn't think about because you didn't know about it. So you're going to conclude something as though you have studied that your whole life, not even realizing the fact that there's still more to study. You know?
This is why there's so much power behind knowing something. There's so much power.
But you're lying to yourself.
You're not lying to yourself.
Yes, you are.
You're not lying to yourself by knowing something. By knowing something, you're grasping the power.
Believing something, you're not lying. In believing,
and you're allowing yourself to dig further into the situation.
Believing in something is where it should lie because whenever you believe, that means that
you have a lack of doubt. You have there's
a lack of doubt for sure.
There's something that you can't do.
Because there's always going to be something you can't do. And
not all the time, that's not the fact.
Yes, there is.
For some situations, to execute to a success rate, to execute at a rate of success, it doesn't always have to be 100%.
Success is a personal opinion.
Success rate doesn't have to be 100%.
Whether or not you succeeded.
All right, well, give me what percentage? 100?
Huh?
99? 98? 97? 96? 80?
What I'm saying is that
75?
No.
50%?
Where
do I fail at? Do I fail at 50%?
Depends on what it is.
Do I fail at 60? Do I fail at 30?
Okay, perfection.
1%.
No, perfection.
When is 1% invalid?
Listen to this.
Okay, then when is 1% invalid?
You want me to give you some perspective then? Perfection can extend into infinity. So you'll never be at 50%. No, you'll never be at 100%. You won't even be at 50. You won't be at 20. You won't be at 10. You won't be at 5. You won't be at 1%. Because infinity comes to no ending. You can take...
So then take the point. Take the decimal
it's
and then
a
give
belief.
me a number after that.
It's a belief.
1.
It's a belief.
Where does failure and success... So regardless
success is
of what
success
belief
is quotation marks.
Regardless of what belief means, beliefs are what create what we succeed in creating this life. Beliefs are what create. Beliefs are what create. They're what create. And if you want to create a life successfily
is a personal opinion. So
what
how
is
you
your
depict
personal opinion? 50%, 60%, 70%, 80%.
That's like the
I'm asking you.
But listen.
My personal opinion, success is 80% to 100%. That's success. If you're asking me.
Yeah, if you're asking you, but the next
person... So we're asking you
but
now.
The next person...
So let's ask you. You're the next person. Let's keep it... Let's do an experiment. We're asking
I wouldn't even use the word success. So you're asking me to use a word...
Okay, what word would you use?
I would say I've progressed.
Okay, what rate of progress is failure or unacceptable?
There's never failure.
Okay, so what rate of progress is unacceptable? Or
Unacceptable is a personal opinion.
You need to work harder to gain a level.
That's within your own judgment of that situation. That's within your own judgment. So what
level of 100% makes you feel like
there's no 100%? There's no 100%.
What level out of 100%? You got to put it on a scale because we need measurements in order to create science. We need measurements in order to create something we can explain to each other and progress from. We have to create measurements. So in a measurement scale, 1 to 100, what rate of that is defined as progress to you?
And the whole every single but listen,
1%?
hang on, no. Every single step is progress. Okay.
So 1%?
No. You're asking me about one step.
So every single step is 100%?
Every single step is progress. You don't need to worry about 100%. You just need to worry about taking the steps towards the idea.
So you need to know that you're doing the right thing. You need to have a certainty that you're going on the right... You're progressing along the right timeline. Going back earlier to what we were talking about timelines, we were talking about how quantum field is made up of dozens of different timelines, and being able to access the multiverse and all of that.
I think that the quantum field is where spirit, like where spirit manipulates matter, and so
Yes,
quantum.
I dig on that too.
Yeah,
I dig on that
quantum.
too.
Yeah,
I was
because
getting on that earlier when we was talking about people being asleep.
yeah, well, because quantum is like, it's like the paint, and so it's like the paint that's just been, you have all these tubes of paint, and so, spirit, the spiritual existence, let's say
Spreads out.
let's say there are certain spirits that are artists, right? And so who's to say it's one God? Because let's say that there are multiple artists that are spirits, and so these spirits that are artists have the ability to only have the ability to manipulate the real world within the micro level, because that is where it's easiest for them to create something small. And so and from that small aspect, it starts to evolve into something larger, and according to what its environment is. But the spirit knows the direction of what this seed is that they created. So the spirit creates this seed, and that seed shapes into a human being. That seed shapes into a tree. That seed shapes into a cat, and so they have created the foundation of a piece of art that moves, that talks, that thinks, because of how they created the foundation and the core, the DNA, and so in that DNA, it's just like, this is how I want this human being to evolve and create, and these are potentially the sicknesses that human being will get, and and so the same thing happens for like mountains and trees and grass. Like, let's say that there are spiritual existences. You can call it God, you can call it whatever you want. It doesn't matter. Let's say it's just a spiritual entity that could be a part of this development. Like, we have software developers creating video games, because how many people are on a video game that were involved in creating it. Mm-hmm. You have the designers.
And you would call them gods.
Yeah,
too.
you could call all the software.
But they would be lesser gods than the gods.
Yeah.
How and what?
But so
because would the effort dictate that? I'm sorry.
Let's say in the video game. Let's say you're one of the characters in the video game, and I'm one of the characters. And so we're analyzing who we think God is, right? Or what a God is, or if there even is one, or if there isn't one.
What that concept means.
So yeah, and so basically, the creation of who's to say that there aren't multiple creators? Okay, like, why can't there be?
Why can't there be? Why can't there be?
Just
logic approves of it. It's simulated in other aspects of
we're mirroring our own experience into the digital, and so what makes sense to us is what we're depicting, and we're depicting what I see is what we're depicting is how we were created, and so we're creating a digital world which is based off of a blank hard drive. Okay, the blank hard drive can be looked at as space itself. Okay,
it is.
Let's say space is that same blank hard drive, and you have a bunch of ones and zeros on that hard drive that are creating digital realities, and those ones and zeros in the real world are the fundamental particles of life. And these fundamental particles shape themselves in different ways. Whenever like, there's an energy flow, though, I think that that connects these fundamental particles together, and they create chemical reactions. These reactions shape
electricity.
Yeah, these reactions shape matter. They shape planets. They shape the core. Like, the core of this of the Earth is the foundation, and the base contains the base ingredients of what it took to make it. The seed. And so basically I see that there being a possibility and there being multiple software developers that have created all of this. You know, in the same way, there has to be multiple software developers that create a video game. And so why does there have to be only one software developer?
Here's why I keep coming back. So here's what my epiphany keeps coming back to is knowing is so powerful. Because we know all of
Knowing
this. Wait, listen, let me finish. We all the thoughts that we just conveyed are things that we've come to understand. And they're not necessarily things that we want to claim we know, but they're things that we understand. And the thing about knowing something is there's such a power in a certainty. And when I say power, I'm talking about the quantum field. I'm talking about your ability, your brain's processing ability to affect the quantum field. That's what you're supposed to be using your brain for, to affect the quantum field.
I do believe that that's possible.
By knowing something, you affect the quantum field with a greater wave of energy than you do by believing it. Believing it is like a ping of a ripple, but it's not as intense as knowing. Knowing, that's why I made that distinction. You got to understand, the distinction I'm coming to, the epiphany I came to, is a high-level epiphany. It's not something that you can't get on a simple level, but it is a high level of understanding epiphany. Because I also know that I don't know everything, but by understanding that, belief is still me hanging out with doubt, hanging out with me flirting with the quantum field, flirting with the quantum possibilities, the many possibilities of reality that I could be experiencing. I'm still flirting with not the doubt parts of that reality.
Okay, so all the thing is this though.
When you make a decision and cut off by knowing, you cut off any other understanding. That sends out a bigger energy pulse that allows you, I feel like, or I think that it allows. This is why we see people excel at such high degrees and we hear them so confidently and braggadociously. You never see a timid person being super successful, even barely successful. You just don't see that. A super humble person too. Every person who's ever successful has a sense of every person has a sense of confidence to them, and you only get confidence by knowing you can do something, not necessarily by believing it, but having no doubt in your mind that when I shoot that basketball, it's going in the hoop. 10 out of 10 times.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that I see, I've never seen believing in something as a weakness. Like, there's no weakness in believing.
It's not a weakness, but it's more power. Remember, we're talking about transmuting energy. So, just understanding this can help us jump quantum level.
The difference is this though. You give knowing that power. You're the one who gives the power to knowing.
Either way, it's
for
the
you,
word.
for you though, it places you in a state of energy that works for what you're trying to accomplish. You know, but I see for me, I interchange knowing with believing because. To me, there's no real. I can say that I'm knowing, but I can say that I know, but to me,
that's why I use breathing. That's why I talk about breathing. And I get what you're saying. Like, you don't know if your next breath is your next breath. But that's why I said, because like right now, of course I know my next breath is my next breath. Like, think about it.
No.
Of course, yes. Because what could let's think about it. What could possibly happen?
So do you know the complications of what the body could do just automatically off?
It's not gonna happen right now though.
You don't know that.
But it's not.
You could say that. There are people who have said that.
And then drop
that have just
after that.
Poof.
No, but that's not about to happen right now.
No. I'm just saying that.
But I know you're just saying. But I also know that that's not about to happen.
Yeah.
Do you see how powerful it is? It's not like I'm going. All right, let's try it again. All right, go ahead, say it. Say what you was gonna say.
You can say it,
but
doesn't mean
you know how I believe that I'm gonna breathe again in this next moment. You know how much I believe that. I believe I'm gonna breathe again.
I believe. There you go.
Believe.
Believe. There you go.
I believe I'm breathing.
So you're
right
saying
now,
it.
though.
Yes, you're believing it, but
So
and it's happening.
You believe it too.
It's
though.
happening just as much strength. It's happening with just as much
But
strength
watch
when
this.
you say it.
But watch this. I know I'm a breathing.
Yeah, that sounds ignorant to me.
But you see how it changed the energy?
Yeah, but it changes the
Something
energy.
that powerful has power.
Yeah, I know. It has power. It has the power to give me a headache.
We were.
That's about the power it has.
That proves my point even more.
No, it
we were
doesn't.
unaligned. We were aligned when I was talking about belief. But as soon as I said knowing, we were unaligned. It takes power to separate things. To separate things, you gotta have power.
Well, you have to. So, I there might be times where I use the word I know. Okay, and
It's times that we should too.
But I just think that it's a matter of
Not all the time.
No, hang
I
on.
think that's a great
Hang on. Yeah,
distinction. Yeah.
I think there's a time where belief has a strength, and I think there's a time where knowing has strength.
Yeah,
has
I know.
strength.
Yeah.
And then I think it's up to each person's perspective on what how they define it. And I don't think that Google has the perfect definitions of every single word either. Like
I don't think people know the powers and strengths, the weaknesses and strengths of words, and when they should be used. So that's why we're kind of having this conversation.
Yeah.
Because I'm somebody that, like I keep mentioning, magic, mana. I truly believe that words are spells. They're word. Because when you talk to a dog, you don't speak with words. We don't speak with words. When I talk to Appa, I don't necessarily. When I was teaching him, he wasn't catching the words. He was catching my feelings. My feelings are really what's going on imaginarily.
Oh, yeah, well,
Like that's the best word I can use.
that's how dogs
too.
communicate with human beings is through feelings and emotions, for sure.
And when I'm talking to him and he began to learn words, same goes for us as human beings. As human beings,
through the emotions, they learn the words. Yeah.
as human beings,
The emotions you put behind the word and the action, obviously too.
that's our first interaction with other human beings. Is the emotions, is the feelings.
Yeah.
And
Well,
then
that's how
as
babies.
we-
That's how babies communicate with their parents
As we get
through their emotions.
as we get programmed with a set of spells, a set of grimoires. There's so many. If you can think of every book as a magic spell book, it even gets.
But
even
when you say
simpler.
spell, you make it have a negative context.
Well, that's because, like you said earlier, about what I thought about knowing. That's how you perceive.
Yeah.
the
So
word
do you see a spell
but
as do you
that's
see a
not
spell
how
as a good thing?
I perceive it as a good thing because of the way that I understand it.
Well, the only thing is this though. There's always going to be
There's
always
spells,
going to
there's
be
also
two.
hexes.
There's
too.
always going to be two directions a spell can go in, and so
Mhm.
when you say a spell, you're not
I'm
defining
not talking about a hex. I'm talking about a
a
jinx.
spell.
Jinx.
A spell. Yeah, I'm just saying though. Whenever you're talking about it, somebody can interpret it that way.
That's their perspective. Like
Exactly.
we talked about earlier, knowing and believing, that's my perspective on it. That I've chosen to adopt because I
Yeah.
feel like it gives me more correction over how I'm sending information out to the quantum field.
I got
Which is why I said if people don't see it how I see it, choose Jesus.
Well,
Either way it go, you're still gonna get there. I just want you to hear how I think about it so I can hear how you think about it and see, well, what spells have you collected since you've been hanging out here in this time-space continuum? Oh, none? The basic spells? Well, I'm here to teach you. I'm not going to learn anything from you, so I know where this conversation is going.
that's condescending though.
That does
You can
not-
learn something
not-
from
not-
anybody.
Yeah, you can. Even
You
your
can.
students have, yes, that's true. But I also know that you're a student and I won't take your emotional outbursts.
Yeah.
Not your, but like,
Yeah.
I wouldn't take a stranger's emotional outbursts. Like, for instance, them word vomiting their life on me. Like, I don't want to hear about who you are. I don't even know you. What are you? But obviously, I'm being put in your life for, one, me to teach you something, and also me to subliminally learn something, which maybe is, who knows, patience, courage, standing up on what I believe in, not going
Believe
astray.
in.
Not
He
in-
said it. He
But-
said it.
Even though I said
Boom.
it, I still said it in a place of lack of doubt. I still said it like
lack of doubt. Yeah.
lack of doubt
lack
of what
of-
I know.
Yeah.
Because I don't feel like I know
See?
everything. But
Okay, so belief.
As
okay,
you're empowering
listen.
okay.
So knowing something can be considered
very demure, very mindful.
well, no, like the more I think about it, like I could say I know something, but if I was to get in a conversation about it, I would also acknowledge the things that I don't know about it. And
That
so
doesn't mean that you don't know, though. It doesn't take away that you know.
no, I know it
just means
doesn't.
that
I know
you
it doesn't.
do know what you don't know.
I know it doesn't.
And sometimes we know more about what we don't know than we don't know that we don't know what we don't know that we don't know.
So like here's a what do you call it when you dissect the word into the other words?
Etymology.
Etymology.
When you practice the history of words.
Yeah. Okay. Etymology. So believe is be live, and that's we're beings and we're living, and the information that we get is just information. Like you can try to solidify it. You can try to lock it into a box by calling it a fact. You can try to lock it into a box by calling it a truth. And if that works for you, that's fine. But I think a lot of people want to push their belief system on other people. And
that's why I said choose Jesus.
You can call see just like that.
Don't give
just
it
like
to
that.
me though, because
just
I'm
like
above
that.
that.
What I just said, you just did.
But I'm already.
What I just said, you did it right
after.
after.
Like I said earlier though, I know that if I'm in that conversation, I'm not there to be taught. I'm there to teach, and that takes a lot of power.
No,
takes a lot of power.
Do you know?
To sit
Do
on.
you know?
Because
hang on.
I'm there to teach doesn't mean I'm not there to listen and learn. It just means I'm there to teach. I'm there to navigate us through this path of understanding. That's it.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that I'm not gonna learn anything. It
Yeah.
just means that I'm here to navigate us to where we get too far off subject. I'm gonna bring us back. Because essentially that's what you're doing. You're teaching.
Yeah.
We should be allowing people to explore information.
Yeah.
Like even right now, while we're teaching each other. For a moment, I'm wearing a teacher's hat, and this is what I go through with a lot of different people who I can have conversations like this with. Not everybody, the conversations last as long because eventually they learn what they need to learn, and then now the conversation is boring. But you teach me something, and then that bounces off of what I learned from you, and then I convey some information to you that maybe helps you become enlightened to something.
Yeah.
In this respect, I'm not even afraid to say that. Based off of what you've already conveyed as a friend, I would give you the teacher hat first before I'd be like, let me teach you what I have to say, sort of thing. I feel like teachers need that kind of hierarchical system in order to gain a greater digestion of our information. Because that's what we're doing as teachers. We're digesting information for the collective. Because some people who are students, they're so focused on just living and don't care if anybody's getting it. Yeah. Some people just don't care if anybody's getting it.
Yeah.
And that's the teacher's job, is to care if anybody's getting it.
Well, I guess one thing that I see as being a problem in these debates is that they're not... Okay, so one thing is that they jump in on top of each other's descriptions of what they believe.
Yeah, I did.
And so they cut each other off, and so the conversation.
And I let it get away from
the conversation, and it's
like I couldn't help it.
It's a battle of ego, and
not essentially if you can't if you remember where you were at, then the ego stays in check, because you were on to a good point, which is what brought me to my epiphany. Just like I could just cut you off now.
What do you mean if you remember where you're at, the ego stays in check?
As in, we were talking about something that brought.
I'm not saying that that's what we do. Whenever I get into a conversation with somebody, I'll jump into the lives. I jump into lives that seem to be well organized, so that people's perspectives can be heard, and there not be some kind of condescending energy. And when the energy becomes condescending, that's whenever I'm like, okay, I'm probably gonna exit out of this. I'm gonna exit out of this live, like. If you're
everybody's a good teacher, though.
Yeah, if you're trying to relay to me information and it's from a perspective of you looking down on me, as though I'm less than you, then you might as well just get out of my face.
That's not your class.
Because what can happen is things are gonna get escalated, and then whenever things get escalated, it's just it's pointless, because there's not going to be any type of a worthy conclusion. And so that's what frustrates me about these lives is that they let each other be condescending to each other. They let each other interrupt each other. They every single person comes from comes from a perspective of just acting like they know more than the next person. And so what I love getting into the debates that are actually moderated in a way where people respect each other's time. Okay, so like you've explained your perspective, it seems logical that somebody else would get the time to explain their perspective, and then whenever you're explaining,
it takes a while to go on a rant. It takes a while
Yeah.
to gather a rant.
but whenever you're on that rant, also realize the fact that like, have you taken the floor for a long time?
Amount of time. This is what you're describing also is what separates teachers from students. Students don't know how to cut the rant short and realize that the lecture has been completed. And also another thing, like it's a constant fluctuation between teacher and student. The greater teacher is constantly understanding how to play. So that's why you always know whether you're the student or not. And that's why I said earlier, like our conversation kind of jumps back and forth because we're able to jump into each other's thought paths without interjecting in such a way to where the rant gets cut off and it's not explored enough to carry the conversation to another epiphany. And that's essentially what you want. You want to continue to have epiphanies with your conversation. And the epiphanies can only be had by continuing to perfect the conversation. By perfecting the conversation, you create chaos too, because there's going to be parts where there's discourse, where there's disagreement. Where I see it this way, I see it that way. But at the end of the day, it's always one book.
What's interesting is that you can think that you're talking to somebody in a respectful manner, and that other person can get offended by something you said, and you can sit there like, what the fuck just happened? Like I wasn't meaning. There was nothing I was aiming for. There's nothing I was aiming for in my explanation that was supposed to be condescending to you, because that was not my intent.
Right.
And so, are you going to force the fact that you think that my intent was to be condescending? My intent was to be disrespectful? You think that my intent was to somehow try to bruise your ego?
So you know what that makes me think about is how many times conversations have been had that have already been had across the timeline, and someone who's very mindful of, who's a very good mindful teacher about and understands that life's a bunch of scripts, understands how to navigate conversations to where, because each time there's discourse, someone needs to learn a lesson. And if the lesson can't be learned by either the teacher completely giving the lesson and the student understanding to resolution, or both the teacher and the student come to a new resolution. See, that's the one that people don't think about. They don't think about that the student could teach the teacher something and the teacher could teach the student something.
Definitely.
But they always think about how the teacher can teach the student, which is why that's the more common resolution.
Yeah.
You always run into discourse when the student really does have this perspective that the teacher needs to start to understand, but they won't understand it. It rarely happens that it's the opposite, where the teacher can't get the information to the student.
I feel
Sometimes
like
the students are trying to teach us stuff that we're not allowing ourselves
sometimes
to learn because we know everything.
Yeah, but the thing is this though. Sometimes the students may not be trying to teach us. Sometimes the student is unaware of the fact that they're actually giving us a learning lesson.
Sometimes, yeah. Those are beautiful moments as well too. I love those moments.
Yeah.
Where it's like, you ain't even know, you just broke me up. You just gave me an epiphany.
Yeah.
Just now.
It was cool that Blitz said today. He said, "Your daughter is very intelligent." I said, "What? What are you talking about? Why? What do you mean? Why did you say like what's your depiction of why you feel like she's intelligent?
Why do you say these things?
What did she do?" And he just said she speaks very clearly. You understand exactly what she means, and there's no like confusion in her message. You know, basically is what he was saying. So she's very like she conveys her
She articulates well.
she articulates well, I
Yeah.
guess, and she
Yeah.
Conveys her emotions well.
Yeah.
And so it was interesting to hear that from somebody like I don't know what my daughter comes across like to somebody else. Like I don't know what it is that they see as being a positive in her traits.
And it's amazing because you'll get a compliment like that, and then a complaint from maybe a teacher or maybe a babysitter or something who's not seeing it the same way
Yeah.
that someone else
The
saw
person
it,
that just gave you
that
a
gave the
compliment.
compliment. Yeah. And I feel like that's where that whole that like I said about the student and the teacher is constantly seeing those moments in life come up and being able to discern and be like, okay, that's not exactly what's going on here. Maybe this teacher has a point, because at that moment whoever's bringing the complaint is the student, and though they may be teaching me something about my child by giving me this complaint, they are also a student and could be seeing this wrong. So let me analyze what they're saying. And only a teacher is going to go through this information. Students are going to just fill it out. Whatever happens, happens. But a teacher is going to break it down and kind of digest the information because they understand what they're working with. They understand that they're in session, in class. Like, you're always in session. I don't care where you... Like, right now, we're in a session. We're in session right now. It goes, we advanced students, though. Like, we advanced as fuck. Like, advanced as fuck.
Yeah.
But you might go to other places in life and you might be in other sessions, where you're not around as many advanced... And some teachers are still students waiting to be taught. And it's crazy how many students are out there. That's why I be having this conversation with people that I feel like I can have it with, like you, is because, like, I want to make sure you out there to, make sure that you...
What's up, UA7? Tone?
What up, though, Tom? I want to make sure that anybody that I fuck with is definitely on that tip of understanding, like, you are a part of the superhero saga. Like, you were there. Like, if the situation's going to shit, you're there to make the difference. And you should, and by confirming that with you, I confirm it with myself. So that way, when I go back to my reality, because you could be like, no, I don't believe in that, and then that would like let me know something else too, like sort of in a way. Yeah. But I kind of went off on a tangent, and I don't want to go down that way because that's a whole other word of things going on there. But I kind of made my point. I was just kind of going on with it, because teachers and students, man. Teachers and students, masters and students, and the best teachers are the best students. You know what I mean? Teacher-student resolution, or both. Either the teacher resolves, student gets the lesson, or like I said,
Well, I think that we should go to bed. It's 4 a.m.
See, now that's the teacher.
Oh.
The student's like, 24-hour live stream. Let's do it. 24 hours, y'all.
I feel like I'm in a lucid dream.
Hey, life is a lucid dream, man.
It's
life
too
is
late.
A lucid dream.
It's too late. It's too late.
It's too late for the lucid dream. What do you say?
What are these people doing up? Like, are you really up right now? Like,
really awake right now?
Normally be
Howdy.
up right
Oh, that's
now.
Tone. Yo, what up, though?
Tone,
what up,
what's
though?
up, Tone? How you doing,
You have to
Tone?
step. He said, howdy. Just two intellectual human beings sharing.
Yes.
You have to step outside your mind to understand others.
Yes.
Yes. He was in there.
You have to
You
step
know what
out of
he's
your
talking
mind,
about.
out of your mind, and into the mind of another person.
In the mind of another, and students don't get that. Like when you run into people who don't get that, you're there to teach at that moment. You need to step into your teacher pants, into your Christ pants, into your hero pants, into your superhuman, supernatural pants, because you're there to evolve the race.
Yeah. Well, I
It's
don't
not
know.
gonna be easy. You might
I
fuck
don't
the
know.
lesson up. Honestly, I fucked a couple lessons up that I tried to rise to the occasion of,
Yeah.
but I still stepped in on the occasion. You know, because you the one there that needs to know things at that moment.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes moments call for you to know things. You can't believe that you're gonna save the day. Sometimes you gotta know you're gonna save the day, because niggas depending on you. You don't know you gonna save it, then why did you come?
Mm.
Well, you
Well,
came because you believed
I
you
mean-
would save the day. Hopefully, you know.
Yeah, like there's times where I would say no, but I think that there's some people
There's more
use
times where
some
belief
people
is more powerful. I definitely
yeah,
felt that.
some people say no,
That was
and
definitely a good.
and some people say no and they know in a situation where
They don't.
you look like Frozo. He said,
Frozone. Oh, he made another comment. Yeah, that whole like stitch about the complaint versus the compliment versus what your behavior is being perceived by, because you know, like I said, everybody's got, like we were talking about, everybody's a different perspective. So just perceiving the behavior is one thing. You know, other people might not be seeing that. What is that called again? That thing?
mouth harp.
A mouth harp. Have y'all ever had a mouth harp? Hey, bro. Yo, shout outs to Tone, bro. I'm glad you're okay, man. I heard about your accident, bro. I'm glad to hear you made a fast recovery. Gotta be safe out there, bro. Gotta be out here looking like Frozone. Said I'm so hurt. Said you, man, dude. Shit, I'm sorry to hear that, bro. I hope you feel fucking better. A concussion and a contusion on your right leg?
What is it?
Damn. Yeah, he got in a car accident.
Oh wow.
So he's like super injured right now. Like he's in that quantum field of possibilities trying to manifest a new body right now.
I'm in the
Like
lucid.
he's trying to evolve.
We're
right now.
lucid dreaming. Why are you up?
So
at
it's
4
it's
a.m.?
good that it's 3:50. So we were talking earlier about the bandwidth. So more people are asleep right now and are not accessing the quantum field, which is why it's important. Which is why at this time is one of the most influential times. They call it the witching hour, but it's one of the most influential times that you can have over the quantum field during when everyone else goes to sleep. Because, and it's not just at 3 a.m. It's pretty much like at like midnight or like 11. Like pretty much when the workforce of the world goes to sleep, because not as many people are using their brains to access the quantum field that's manifesting all the possibilities. So when you put your beliefs, which is why it's good to have those beliefs, when you put your beliefs on your pillow at the end of the night, they're going into the quantum field and becoming a greater possibility. You're adding to the magnetism that's pulling them towards you.
Yeah.
Now, as you pull them towards you, your beliefs should start to develop into a knowing. It should start to develop into a certainty, because the more it develops into that, the faster the thing will come to you and the faster you detach from it. You always got to understand, I'm also trying to dig myself out these holes and into these holes too. So that's one of the things I kind of started to understand, is in order to detach from the it is done feeling, like it's done, you got to know. And the only way to detach from it, the only thing that I'm ever detached from is stuff that's already happened. And that's where the knowing come in. That's where the power of like being like, okay, it happened. Okay, it happened.
The only
Why am I still thinking about that? It already happened.
Yeah, it's possible to know when it comes to like accomplishing something, and then saying that okay, it's done. Like I can clock out. I've finished work. I know that it's 5 o'clock. You know, but then some people say no within the context of a religion or an entity or like
Excuse me.
you know, whenever it comes to things that are not many people actually know. But God still got me here for a reason.
The greater good.
So he's a Christian. He's
A
either
greater
that or
good.
he's like you. And you say God and you say Jesus, but I don't think
Mhm.
you're a Christian. I don't know.
I am.
Christ.
That's who I am.
You
Nope.
say you are Christ.
I am. Watashi. Soy. Yo. I am.
I am tired. I am tired.
Me too.
Alright, man. I'm gonna X
Peace.
out. I'm gonna X out.
All right, G. Yo, that was like a 90-minute fucking rant.